Gang, we all know Spotify is the best and most popular music streaming app. They have millions of songs by millions of artists available at your fingertips. But did you know that aside from millions of songs, Spotify now has thousands and thousands of podcasts from all of your favorites, including Fresh Air, How Did This Get Made, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. They also have original programming like Stay Free, The Story of the Clash, and of course, the ever-popular Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen podcast going on right now. Just go to Spotify.com or download the app from your app store. And don't forget to follow How Did I Get Here? That's Spotify. Millions of songs and thousands of podcasts. Let's get down. Attention musicians of all levels. It's not always easy picking out a song by ear. Sometimes you need a little help. Well, I have the app for you. Whether you're a professional musician or a beginner, Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. For just $2.99, you get the chords and tabs on guitar, bass, or ukulele for over 1 million songs. They're all available at your fingertips. You also get tools like a tuner, metronome, chord library, lessons, videos, and more. You can find out any song you want. It also has like transpose button. It has auto scroll that you can change the speed to so you can play along with the song. A lot of the songs have the lyrics there so you can sing along with them. Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. Just go to ultimateguitar.com or download the app to your phone today and start playing. Start playing any song you want. Ultimate Guitar, that's the place for you. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host,
All right, hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys have all had a good week, whatever it is you do during the week. I've had a good week, man, but I did have a thing where I jacked up my back. I did a thing where, you can't bend over and you have to lay flat for a whole day. Had to do that for a whole day. That was terrible. Plus, I don't know if you guys have Peacock, if you watch that Dr. Death documentary or TV show. They made a TV show documentary. There's a podcast about it. It's called Dr. Death. It's about this guy that ruins people's lives. It's a real guy that was a doctor, a neurosurgeon that was doing all these spine surgeries and killing people and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so I started freaking out. I had a meltdown. I'm like, shit, this is the rest of my life. I can't bend over. Trying to bend over and put my dog's leash on. I'm getting stuck in that position, bent over. But I'm doing better now. Got one of those pads on. Been taking the Advils, like they say, like they tell you to. It's funny though, these pads, man. I'm about to go to this. I'm about to go to a mixer, see some people, but I've got to make sure I take a shower and wash this pad off because I smell like a 90-year-old man. Yesterday, my girlfriend came home. She was like, "Oh God, you smell like Bengay." But it's Salon Pass. That's what I'm using. I'm on the Salon Pass pads. Crazy town, I tell you. I hope you guys are all having a good week, whatever it is you're doing. Hey, gang, listen real quick. I got a last-minute show. I'm playing at Far Out Lounge this Sunday, which is the 10th of October. Sunday, the 10th of October. I'll be playing from 1 sometime, splitting sets with my friend Scott Collins between 1 and 4 p.m. Covers $5. You can go, I'll put a link to it on our Facebook page, but come on out, Far Out Lounge, if you live in Austin, 1 to 4 p.m., Sunday fun day, a little afternoon action with Johnny and Scott Collins, Johnny Gowdy and Scott Collins. Always a good time. Always a good time. Speaking of Far Out Lounge, my guest today is playing Far Out Lounge 1 week from tonight, Friday, October 15th. You can see Fat Tony with special guest Cadence Weapon at Far Out Lounge. Yes, I talked to Houston rapper Fat Tony, even though he doesn't live in Houston anymore. He had moved to Brooklyn, then he moved to Tucson. He's based out of Tucson right now, but he's hitting the road. He's got a brand new single out called Ain't For Me and a brand new album called Exotica. Amazing. This guy's one of the best writers I've experienced in a long time. Like his writing style is unbelievable, and he's a great storyteller. And it's very societal sort of rap writing. In fact, this latest single Ain't For Me is written from the perspective of a black man getting ready to move his family out of the United States. You know what I'm saying? The first song on Exotica, What Wakes You Up, or What Wake You Up, unbelievable lyrics. Just amazing, you know, grappling with life in this country, in this time. Unbelievable. You can find him at fattonyrap.net. We have a great conversation. He's on tour with Cadence Weapon, and they'll be playing on Wednesday, October 13th at White Oak in Houston. They'll be playing upstairs. On October 14th, they'll be playing Paper Tiger in San Antonio. On October 15th, which is next Friday, they'll be playing Far Out Lounge right here in Austin. October 16th, which is next Saturday, they'll be playing in Club Dada in Dallas. One of my favorite places. Been playing there since 89, bros. 32 years I've been playing at fucking Club Dada. Jesus. Fat Tony and I have an amazing conversation. Amazing conversation about kind of the state of music, the way that people listen to music, why music got to this point where it's free and there's all this streaming stuff, and how people have kind of lost the connection that they once had with music. You know, like there used to be boundaries. Like people would be like, hey man, I like when I was a kid. Okay, say I was in junior high in the early 80s, 81, 82, 83. That was my sort of junior high era. So in my junior high era, you were a metal guy, you were a country guy. They were called kickers and heads because the stoners, you know, the metal guys were stoners mostly. But they like, you didn't see a guy wearing an Aussie shirt at like a Garth Brooks concert. Well, Garth Brooks wasn't around then, but you know what I mean? George Strait or Willie Nelson. You didn't see. People had walls up. And so people were like committed to this music, and they would argue about their, like, that style of music sucks, man. But that doesn't happen anymore. Like there's no more stuff. It's all just music, which in some ways is good, but maybe people have lost their connection. Their sort of like deep connection to music where they'd fight for it and defend it in some way. Great conversation with Fat Tony. I mean, we really talk about a lot of stuff and just a lot about like music stuff. He explains a lot of the Houston rap scene to me, which I've always been fascinated with. And I've always wanted to sort of like be able to talk to people from that scene and learn more about it, because I think Houston has had an amazing hip hop and rap scene since the 80s, since Ghetto Boys, man. You got the Chopped and Screwed thing going on with DJ Screw. It's all happening, man. You got guys like Fat Tony, Bun B. They work together. FatTonyRap.net. Go see if he's coming to a town near you, because this tour that he's doing with Cadence Weapon is going on more than just next week. Like they're out there now. So they might be coming to a town near you tonight. So get out there and check it out. FatTonyRap.net. And without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with this amazingly talented and amazingly cool. Oh, wait. Before I introduce Fat Tony, I'd like to thank my friend Emily Miller for setting this up. She hooked us up. I was like, hey, can you introduce me to Fat Tony? She said, yeah. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with this amazingly talented gentleman, Fat Tony. Let's get down.
I ain't gotta look that far to see that this motherfucker really ain't meant for me. That this bitch really ain't built for me. That we built this motherfucker, did it all for free. I'ma need a fee, I'ma need a flea, I'ma need a leave immediately. As soon as I can, I'ma make another plan. As soon as I can, I ain't coming back again. God damn, man.
So are you all ready to head out on the road? I saw your tweet about the 5 things you gotta. You seem like a healthy person with a good head on your shoulders. There was no make sure you go by the Coke guy. And
no, actually, I feel like that kind of stuff works against you on tour. Like, I think,
it does.
I think being on tour is mostly about survival.
Yeah,
you know,
it's hard enough to make it through each day after you've been out there for a while. How do you guys travel?
We're gonna be in a minivan, and we have some flights between a couple shows, but we're mostly driving.
Yeah. How many guys in the minivan?
At the least, it'll be 3 of us total, and at the most, it'll be 5 of us total.
That's not bad.
So it'll be pretty easy, like definitely manageable. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Have you done a lot of touring?
Yeah. I actually did my first tour in 2011 with this artist formerly known as Blackie, all caps, no spaces. He now goes by his real name, Michael J. LaCour. He's a Houston noise artist, like noise rap artist. And yeah, I have toured a lot. I have toured a hell of a lot. I think I've toured almost every year over the past decade, except maybe, I think the only years I didn't tour were 2013 and 2016.
Wow.
But even those years had like spot dates and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like since then, that's really been the only way to make money off of music.
Yeah. I mean, man, the economics of music are very interesting to me. And I just read this article in New York Times Magazine about The Sopranos, and it's really making me think because there's a resurgence of, have you watched Sopranos before?
Yeah.
Have you watched the show?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a resurgence of young people watching it. You know, according to HBO Max, their viewership for that show has tripled during the pandemic. And I am 33. So Sopranos ended when I was graduating from high school, right? And I remember being in middle school and I was trying to watch it, but I just didn't get it. Like I didn't get what they were talking about because it was very adult and nuanced. But I started watching it in 2018, which is when I just turned 30. And I love the show. And anyway, I just read this article that's saying that maybe young people are identifying with the show because they identify with the main character, who is someone that feels like the world that they grew up in was a lie. And the things that they thought to expect from this country and from society are not there. You know, often Tony Soprano is like complaining about how people aren't like the good old days back when his dad was like a mob dude. Yeah. You know, men aren't men anymore. Right. Things are all mixed up. Family isn't family. Like it's not the same. And I kind of feel when you bring up the economics of music, that's one of the first things on my mind, because during the 2010s, I felt like as an artist, we all saw that selling music as your main way of making money was kind of done. Like to sell physical music, like to sell CD, vinyl, tape, that was on its way out. So we turned to these things like touring. You know, everybody, I remember at like the start of the 2010s, everybody was like, yo, if you get on YouTube and you tour, that's how you make money. And I think that looking at those two new options as the one blanket way to make money is kind of BS too. And it's something that I think that I realized in like the last 5 years or so. I feel like when it comes to music and probably any artistic business, the money is always coming from several sources at once, and not one of those can really make up for what is a sustainable income, I think.
Right. You're right.
I know I'm ranting, but
no, it's almost like you have different side hustles.
Yeah, I think every artist needs to have at least 6 streams of income.
I do that. I mean, I'm in a cover band. I work with the Austin Music Foundation. Awesome. Yeah. I have this podcast. I do my own stuff. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you have to do to be like a professional artist.
Yeah. And I think it's because the world that I grew up wanting to be in music, I feel like it's kind of gone, you know, like when I came up loving music, I came up loving like independent music, you know what I mean? So I was enamored by the fact that you could be a punk band or a rapper or a more experimental kind of artist, and your ecosystem was, there are these clubs that fit 200 to 500 people all over the country that'll probably book you every year. There are record stores that'll like all over the country that'll probably buy X amount of your record every time that you come through town. There's people that work at the record store who, because they work at the record store, they have money to go to your concert. Like there's this whole ecosystem of independent music that kind of help each other flow. And I really loved that growing up. And I feel like it's pretty much gone.
That's sad.
I mean, I think people have been saying that for a long time. Right. I mean, I worked at a record store in the mid 2010s and it was kind of on its way out, but it still was doing like a baby version of its thing. Like me and a bunch of other people that played in bands, we all worked there. All of us had like other jobs or like music or other stuff going on, but it was kind of like the good old days thing of we all play in this band. We're like living in this city. After work, we're going to go hang out. You know, some of us are taking off work to go on tour. Like that whole, the kind of lifestyle that I think was parodied in movies like Empire Records and stuff. You know, I think that that's the ecosystem that really made it possible for a lot of bands to do their thing in the 80s, 90s, and a part of the 2000s too.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you know, it's funny because I'm 52 and I've been doing this like in a capacity where people pay a cover to come in and watch me do it. And I've had throughout my career had a major label deal and a major publishing deal, and that was, you know, pretty much almost the brokest I ever was in my life. Like the poorest, and without any chance of really getting ahead without selling millions and millions of records. And that was at the very end of the thing. Like my band got signed in 1998. So it was like the end of them giving you money to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, I've never been a huge selling artist, and I've always pretty much had a very blue collar career where, you know, if it's not me out touring, as I said, I'm playing in this cover band, or I'm touring, you know, playing guitar and keyboards and singing backup for another artist or something.
Yeah.
And really the only way I know to sustain myself is by going to a place and doing it in front of people more than really any other source of income. So, my view hasn't changed, although the chances of everything's gone down like that. You know what I mean? Like now,
yes.
Like when I was in the 90s and people wanted to use my songs for commercials, it was fucking really uncool to do that. And you're like, hey man, I don't do that, man. And so now everyone's fighting to do it. But now it's like the money is much smaller than it once was, right? For the song placement or whatever. And also now you're in competition with Kanye West and Paul McCartney and, you know, Taylor Swift and Cyndi Lauper. I like the whole world of music is like on this weird level playing field. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of took for granted the old way because, you know, and like there were some hardships in the old way. I have this friend, Nick, he owns a label called Fool's Gold. And we like to look at a lot of like 90s and 2000 stuff about bands, especially bands that like never blew up. Yeah. Like I love reading about a band who was like a Hootie and the Blowfish type band where they were regionally selling well and then they got their deal, and you can watch in like real time how their like LinkedIn changes and like looking at their old press and just how their life has gone on. And one thing that we noticed that was much harder back then, it was harder to make like a music video. Like we were watching this like little EPK that a band did who ended up getting signed to a major and then got dropped before the album came out. They had this big part of their EPK about how they raised like $10,000 or something to make a video. And it was a really shitty video. Yeah. And my day coming up, I have probably made like 30, 40 music videos. You know what I mean? Right. Like, cause it was much easier. Like, I feel like my era of entering the music business was right at the cusp of that old ecosystem dying out while I'm being really excited by the new tech and like the new toys happening. But I was hoping that ecosystem was going to last. But like you said, how everyone is into getting syncs now, me too.
Everyone
I feel like everybody got like desperate and for lack of a better term, sold out. Like try to get as far away from the old way into how can I get a job somewhere here? Who can I work for that is richer than me? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even dudes like, I mean, I know this guy that, I know a couple of guys that are big, like were the biggest producers and mixers in their day. And that now they rep speaker companies as well as make records because there's no budget for them anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because everybody wants to make a cheap record now.
Because everyone
Every label
can.
does.
Same thing with the videos. I mean, granted, there's a lot of really creative shit going on, and there are some people that are out there that can make their own videos, and it really turns out great. But also, like there are great directors that people can't afford to use anymore for that stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just very interesting. And I'm thinking about it a lot now because we're in the pandemic and it's the start of a new decade. And I'm watching shit change now. Like now that I'm in my 30s, I can clearly see that my era, who was the youth, we're now moving into middle age. And there's this younger crew of people who are definitely in a different culture than we were in. And it's just fascinating to see it. Like just, because all these things I think happen over and over. At like the top of every decade, there are people that feel like they're losing their old ways. And there's new people who are a perfect fit for that new era. And I always like to be cognizant of what's going on because music history is fascinating. You know what I mean?
It really is.
How this shit changes so fast. It's really crazy. Like I'm thinking now, I put out my first record in 2010. Yeah. My first album ever. And I was in this issue of Spin magazine the next year where a bunch of and I know we're supposed to do a podcast. I'm just like shooting the shit with you.
No, that's what this is.
But yeah, I was in this magazine and all these artists in that magazine, a bunch of them got like signed and like we were all really like new. Yeah. And it's just interesting seeing that happen again. For like the first time in my life, my like class is now the older class. And it's something that happens to everybody. And it's kind of boring because it does happen to everybody. But while I'm in the midst of it, it's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I that brings me to something because what made you pop into my mind is I went to go see my friend D.z. Brown in November at Far Out Lounge, and you played as well. And nice. I thought you were fucking great. And then I remembered your name because you have the same name as a really famous gangster. And also, you're not fat. That's one thing that, like, it's genius because, like, you remember, you're like, that guy's not fat. His name's Fat Tony. I totally remember his name. He's not fat. And my first single, my first video is called "You Ain't Fat." It's all about my origin story, So all that shit is on purpose for sure. Yeah. So check it out. So I got Rolling Stone, and my grandma had she fell and broke like 4 ribs, and oh, I'm sorry. She's fine now. But she also like lacerated her spleen. So I'm sitting at my grandma's house for a lot of July, like the first couple weeks of July, just hanging out, making sure she's okay, getting her ice packs and shit. And my aunt picked me up a Rolling Stone. She's like, oh, look, I thought you might want to read this. It's the hot issue. So I'm reading it. I saw you in there. I was like, holy shit. I just saw this guy. And so then I thought to myself, I'm 52. And when I see someone in Rolling Stone that I know, I shit my pants. Because I'm like, no, totally. That's the coolest thing you could do from when I was a little kid. You know what I mean? And it's the hot issue. And it's the hot issue, right? So if that would have happened to me in the 90s, like, dude, I would have just walked around demanding free drinks, telling everyone. Telling the story about how that happened. But I'm wondering is in 2021, what is that? Is that like the biggest thing that can happen? That's the thing. I think for me personally, because I'm 33 and I grew up on magazines, and I'm the type of music fan that's always been into music publications, critics, Like I've always closely followed that stuff, and I think that is very cool. So for me, it's big, and also because the guy that interviewed me is the senior editor, and he's a young Black guy that's from Houston, and he's someone who was like young when I was just coming out. Like he was referencing some of my earlier shows that I played for years before I even put out an album. Like I probably was regularly playing shows for at least 3 or 4 years before I ever did an album. And I was just going off of like demos.
Yeah.
And the fact that he knew about that part of my life, it made me feel really good to talk to him. Cause it's like, oh, this is a guy that probably has a better understanding of who I really am than people who even found out about me after 2010.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think that it moves the needle the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think all that stuff is kind of donezo. Like, and I think that it's done for several reasons. I don't think that it's like, I definitely don't think that it's the music audience's fault.
No,
that doesn't have the same value that it does.
Right.
Because regular ass people who aren't in this business, when they see I'm in Rolling Stone, they're like, oh, this is very cool. Like, because they have that memory of the old world where Rolling Stone is like a big thing.
Right.
But probably to like someone that's under 25, they probably don't care at all.
Yeah. So, dude, this is great talking to you. You're
great talking to you too. It's cool.
I figured you were going to be this engaging and inquisitive just about life, because it comes through in your music. But you were saying something earlier about The Sopranos, about how this guy is realizing that things aren't the same, that things have changed in a way, and that leads me to your latest single, Ain't For Me. Is that kind of the headspace that you were in when you wrote that song?
I think so, but I think with that song, that's like more me imagining what it would be like rather than wallow in all this dissatisfaction. Just get up and make a change, you know, which I think is the hardest thing for many people to do when they're facing any problem in their life. Like, it's so easy to just sit and just complain about how things aren't working, whether it's, you know, you're unhappy about your friends or your partner or the job you have or your haircut or whatever the fuck it is. It's so easy to be like, oh man, everything sucks. Everything's bad. Everything's been awful.
Right.
But I thought it'd be cooler to make a song where it's like, you know what, rather than go into the detail of what I don't like about this place, let me tell you about how I'm convincing my immediate family, my wife and kids, to take this crazy chance with me and just leave and go try doing something else, you know. And I love that song also acknowledges that if you are going to be an American expat living somewhere else, you are still privileged to a certain extent because you are an American. At the very least, you're probably using some American currency to propel your life,
right?
Which might be a stronger dollar than the place that you're living. And, you know, that's one thing that really attracts an expat to be somewhere, the fact that the cost of living is less. So I just thought that it was a cool way to sum up all of my feelings of what was going on. June of last year, June 2020 is when I wrote the song. And I just felt like it was just a very honest depiction of my feelings. It just flowed out of me. Yeah.
Do you, that was a long month. It was a great month for an awakening. What do you think? How much of that movement, not even just Black Lives Matter, but just the fact of people seeking out truth, even, you know, white people, like a lot of my friends. I mean, obviously I you know, there's people out there that were dicks about it. You know, I'm related to some that, you know, oh no, they're going to take our suburbs away from us now. And, you know, whatever that fear is that they've grown up with, irrational fear.
I like hearing them out too. By the way, for the record, you know what I mean? Anyone that that like is like a right winger or like whatever. I wish that more people had the patience to hear each other out, even if they don't agree with each other. Cause I really believe, you know, and I'm talking like actual conversations, not comments, making fun of each other. Yeah. I'm like talking like actually like, I'm like talking like family stuff. Cause you know, during that time, I know a lot of people were like, yo, I have a family member who is super liberal and they own some Antifa shit and I don't fuck with them. Or people who are like, yo, my like uncle is like a Trumper, MAGA guy. I don't even want to hear him out. I think that it's much better for those two to talk, even if they walk away being like, I totally disagree with you.
Right.
I think it just brings the feeling down from this like aggravated state of going crazy to what it really is.
Yeah.
You feel one way, I feel another way. As long as we're not harming each other or anybody else, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very open way of viewing things, an open-minded way. So what I was going to ask is that it felt like there was a movement and a wave of an awakening of sorts. Do you think that it stuck through? Or do you think that stuck, or it was just something because people didn't have anything to do, were able to really throw themselves into this?
I think it was both. I think that it stuck for the people who were already interested and for the people who were just beginning to get into that stuff,
right,
and wanted to keep going with it, which I think there was a lot of that too. There were a lot of people who took that moment to educate themselves and like really cared about it and are doing it past it being trendy. But I think at least the most part of what we saw, it was mostly people playing a role, especially when it comes to these big businesses, these corporations. Right. You know, every company, whether they sold clothes or furniture or whatever the fuck, was making some kind of statement to prove that they were on the right side of history.
Right.
And it was flash in the pan, you know, and I felt like a lot of that stuff wasn't going to last when it happened. I turned down a lot of opportunities to partner with people during that time period because it felt like it was a slap in the face, you know. And the only things that I chose to do was with people that I actually believed had their heart in the right place.
Right.
But I think that most people were just doing it for like the look, because it's and I think it's true on both sides. I think that there are hella people who are like pushing MAGA shit for the look. You know, I can definitely say several people I know who are entertainers have rebranded themselves as right-wing MAGA people because that's what's hot right now. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are playing that game, playing that same game that we spoke about earlier of people feeling like the world's ending. Everything that we know is going down. I am desperate. I need to find some group of people and some attention and some money to latch on to ASAP.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you some questions about something I'm fascinated about? So you came up in the Houston hip hop scene, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a legit scene since the late 80s, whenever the Ghetto Boys came out.
Yeah.
And it's continued to be like a legit, real, because Austin doesn't have like an actual scene. We got some great rappers and stuff, and we got some great artists, but we don't really have a thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean the Houston thing, I mean, you're right. Since the late 80s, that's a long fucking time. That is one great thing about growing up in Houston. Like, I kind of figure it to be similar to like if you were like a punk kid growing up in LA in the 80s, where like as a little kid on the same stage in my mind as Master P, Biggie, Jay-Z, these like big artists, Little Kiki and Scarface, Devin the Dude and Bun B and Pimp C and all this stuff, they were on the radio alongside these songs. So all my local Houston stuff, it didn't feel like it was just local or just underground. It was on the same tier as national artists or just artists who weren't from Houston or from Texas.
Right.
And that just always made me feel like, yeah, anyone can do music, because it's not like you know, I like see so many places, kind of like Austin, where people are like, damn, they feel like they never had their shot. They never had their chance in the national spotlight for rap music. And I just feel really lucky to come from a place that has had major artists who are not only popular, but great since way before I even heard a rap song.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
Now I'm just bragging. Sorry.
So you came up seeing punk bands as well, like that?
Yeah. I came up putting on punk shows because how I learned about independent music was from being into 80s punk bands and 90s punk bands, right? Because I would get into Minor Threat. This very cool girl named Erin, who was in my German class, maybe my sophomore year of high school. She was a year or two older than me, and she was in a grindcore band and had hairy armpits. She saw me listening to some punk CD and was like, oh, you like punk? Do you know about hardcore? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she put me on the Minor Threat and all these other bands. And from those bands, I found out that they would book their own shows. They would basically run their band like a business, right? They would practice a lot. They'd write their own songs. They'd produce their own songs. They'd book their own tours. They'd pool their money to get together to buy a van. You know what I mean? And I saw all that and I was like, that's what I want to do in music. So that roadmap is how I approached any music I did, from the little band I played in high school, to my rap group in high school, to my solo rap shit going out of high school. It was always that's the model of how you make music. So really, but I went to maybe 3 shows, right? Ever, right? At this point in my life. I saw MF Doom, I saw an Executioner show, and some other show, all underground rap, right? And I felt like going to those shows mirrored what I heard from these punk shows. So why not I just make it all one thing? So for my 4th show, I decided to book a show rather than go to more concerts. I just started putting on concerts, and I reached out to this band called the Ergs. They're from Jersey. I saw on their website they had TBA for their Houston slot. So I emailed them, just cold call, wrote them and said, hey, I'll put on your show. And they said yes. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never met anyone that put on a show. Like I had just heard an interview of Ian MacKaye doing it, and I was like, I can do it. So I tried to call that girl, Erin. It was during the summer to help me put on the show. And her dad said that she was out of town for the summer. So I was on my own. So I put together a flyer, and I just thought to myself, oh, where do I go to find other people that like music? Well, they're probably going to go to the record store, the skate shop, the coffee shop. I already knew that these were the cool places where alt people go, right? And I'm 15 at this point. And I also looked in my student listings, and I hand mailed a flyer to any kid in my school of any grade that I thought kind of liked punk music. And from that show, I just kept going, kept putting on shows, and that just really took over my life. And, when it comes to my punk upbringing, I would say the biggest influence is me putting on those shows rather than going to a bunch of punk shows as a kid. Because I didn't really know a lot of punks growing up. You know what I mean? And even the hip hop shows I went to, I mostly went alone. I didn't have a bunch of friends who were as rabid about music as I was. Right. They were all crazy about it to a certain extent. Right. But I'm going to write a band of adults and tell them I'm going to put on a show because that sounds like a fun thing to do for a month. You know what I mean?
So wait a minute, back to that show, that first one that you booked. Did you do it at a venue? Yeah.
So I looked in the back of my alt weekly paper, which was Houston Press. Yeah. And I just called every venue. I called the Engine Room. I called the House of Blues. I called Warehouse Live, which was new at the time. And I didn't know better. And I was like, do you have any room on your calendar for me to put on a show around these dates for this punk band from Jersey? And they all said no, obviously. But the one venue that said yes was this hippie performance art venue on the north side of Houston in the Heights called Super Happy Funland. And Super Happy Funland would let me put on these all ages shows. And I put on shows there for a good 2 years.
Was that the place that
I even played my first show there?
Was it like upstairs?
You might be thinking of Avant Garden or like Helios.
Oh, yeah.
I think
there a lot.
Yeah. Super Happy Funland was like a performance art theater. Okay. It had seats. It was kind of like a small, like black box theater.
That's awesome.
Right? And like they would have like sock puppet shows there and like noise music shows there, like all kind of stuff. But I just started booking shows there first with that band, the Ergs. And then I just booked friends of mine, you know, like anybody from my school or from neighboring schools that wanted to put on a show. They would get in touch with me because word got out that I was a kid that knew how to put on shows and I could make a flyer and like, you know, promote it. And I would promote it via putting flyers in, you know, skate shops, record stores like Sound Waves, coffee shops like Diedrich's where I worked. And I also put them online on MySpace on LiveJournal. I was in all these LiveJournal groups for like emo kids and punk kids and black kids that like punk and all this stuff. And I would always post those flyers and be like, hey, if anyone is in Houston, this is going on this weekend.
Did you? Well, that's what that whole DIY thing and the whole punk thing and the whole hip hop thing is, a community of people. Like the Grateful Dead or something is like one of the best examples of that, how you can become a billionaire from doing that.
Yeah, that was what I was always attracted to in all of music. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm really seeing how a lot of that is gone.
Yeah. Huh.
Or at least it's like happening in a much different way than the old model, because that old model looked similar in the 80s as it looked in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that I knew from looking at magazines that alt people go to these places, you know, that was embedded in my head from like movies, TV, magazines. Like there was at least 20 years of underground music happening, living that lifestyle, that I instinctively knew as soon as I wanted to put on a show where to go and what to do and the kind of language of that culture. Now, I don't think I would go to coffee shops and skate shops to put up posters. I think it would be a waste of time. It'd probably be better for me to just buy some Facebook ads and hire like a, you know, digital marketer to like.
It's just not as fun. It's so fun going and putting the post. I've always loved putting up the flyers.
Yeah, you get to meet people and you ask them if they like the same kind of music, and you might get the people that like work there to go, and like maybe you like give the staff the guest list. You know what I mean? It's fun. It's fun. It's more of a community. Yeah, and you can go to those places and you know people like you who are probably working these same type of working class jobs, who like the arts. They're probably gonna be similar to you. I don't know. It was a beautiful time, man. I had a great time. I'm glad that I got some of that in my lifetime. Yeah.
Okay. So the big question to me, for you, is how did you do? Did you make money on the show?
No, of course not. Only 5 people came. 5 people came, and only one of them was a kid that I didn't know, and he had a mohawk, and I came up to him, and I don't remember this, but me and him are really good friends now, and he says, "You came up to me and you were like, who are you?"
Right.
like, why are you here? How'd you hear about this show?
Right.
I later ended up putting on shows that were big to me. Like I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, we had a freaking, we had a benefit show, and I think that I raised like $1,000 or something just off ticket sales. And I think a lot of the band, I think every band played for free, and it was like 6 or 7 bands. It was like going from the afternoon until nighttime. Awesome. And it was like kid bands and also grown-up bands too. I think that's the moment that I was proudest of me putting on DIY shows. And there was another time where I put on a show and I think I made $300. And the venue, obviously my like business wasn't there yet because I don't know what the money was. I can only remember being like paid twice, right?
Right.
And the second time I got $300, and I remember I was so excited. I ran outside the venue and I like tripped and fell, and then I like got up and I ran to my friends who were so packed deep in this car that one of us was in the fucking trunk. And I was like, guys, let's go to Wendy's. It's on me tonight.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you this. In a time when you were saying that people don't really connect or have that kind of community or anything really building around stuff, do you think it's because things have become so disposable? And like you put out this record Exotica, which by the way is also just fucking great. And I was telling you yesterday in our brief conversation that what you wake up, I know it's the first song, but just I kept on going back and listening to the lyrics of it, and it's so real and true and beautifully poetic.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. You really you're really great. Yeah,
wow,
I don't know.
You,
I don't know how else to say it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Do you feel like putting out that? Do you feel like putting out an album is just not the same as it would be to put out a single because everything just kind of moves fast in that way?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I think it all depends. You know, I think we're kind of talking about a few different things here, right? Like on the business side of it, I can see that. On the personal side of it, putting out an album still means the same to me. It always has. Like I always want to put a lot of time into making an album, making sure that there are themes, that there's some level of connectivity between every bit of the album, from the songs to the artwork to the music videos to how I decide to like dress when I'm performing that material, to everything around it. I want it to be a dialed in era for me. Every time I think my new album should be whatever era Fat Tony is in that span of a year or 2 or 3. You know what I mean? But I think on a business level and a consumer level, I think albums only mean a lot now when the album is a big moment. Like Kanye's Donda or Drake's Certified Lover Boy. Those are albums that are of the moment because everybody within that culture talks about it, right? And I think that is less so things are more disposable now, but it's decentralized. Like you were talking about Rolling Stone, right?
Right.
Like 20 years ago, people in that hot list from being on that, we would have sold maybe like at least 10,000 more units or something, because there'd be that more people who are like, let me just go buy whatever they have out to go see if it's good because so-and-so says that it's good.
Right.
But there is not one single thing that tells the consumer what music to go to right now. So every artist kind of lives within their own ecosystem. And if they're not at the top of the food chain in that ecosystem, they get drowned out, I think.
So like the middle, the whatever middle class is gone. You're either Drake or you.
You're local. Yeah. You're just like a fucking local artist. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think that like the middle class economy of music, I think is mostly that like independent music scene that I was talking about, like bands that sold, you know, there were certain bands that probably sold like 10,000 records max for their albums, and they could make some decent money every year. You know what I mean? If they didn't have a crazy overhead. nowadays, if you sell like 4,000 albums, you might have the number one album in the country.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like straight up. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
You got to think about that. That is such a fucking difference. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. I mean, yeah, I feel like now we all have the luxury of being able to look back and see that what happened with that decimation of record sales was greed on behalf of the record companies, realizing that there's 80 minutes of time on a CD and they can charge more if they fill it up. And so then you got people, new bands putting out a song with or a record with like 17 songs on it. 2 of them are good. Then all of a sudden this technology catches up where you can rip these songs from these CDs and fucking share them for free and save somebody, $20 off of buying a new band's record, and then eventually the record companies didn't get the hint and they thought they could keep on fighting it and they couldn't, Man,
I think all that piracy helped the independent bands.
Yeah.
Because I have seen interviews from like 90s punk bands who were like, yo, during the 90s, we like sold like almost 1 million records. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then when the 2000s hit, we saw our record sales dwindle, but our tours were going up. More and more people were coming. And right. I think people like me found out about punk because, I didn't have like the older homie to put me on. I had that one friend at school, Aaron, and this other guy, Ricky, and they probably showed me like a handful of bands. But most of what I know about not just punk, but all music is from me being at home, being on the internet, just reading and then hearing about a band and then getting that album. Oh, this is one of the biggest albums of all time. Let me download that and just listen to it. And with punk bands, it helped me educate myself fast on what's happening currently and with the old school, because you have to know the foundation for the subculture shit. And it just made me want to go see shows more and just be like, yo, like, I just downloaded the Misfits whole record collection. Yeah. I'm in the mood for punk now. Let me go see who is playing currently, because I'm all fired up on this shit that I wouldn't have had access to if it wasn't free. So I think that greed made people want to shut down all the piracy and just think, oh, it's going to ruin us. When actually people were still buying records and it was going relatively decently. It just wasn't the cash cow that it was before.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough.
But also, I'm just an artist. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Maybe I'm wrong. but like, this is what I see. This what I notice playing out.
Right. So, really quickly, I want to make sure that we talk about the fact that you're leaving on tour tomorrow. You're going out for a while with Cadence Weapon.
Yeah, and, Cadence Weapon.
Yeah, and people
Canada. Yeah, that's where Cadence Weapon's from.
Oh,
he's a Canadian.
That's awesome. How do you guys know each other?
I met him the second time I went to South by Southwest. I was hanging out with my friend who had a friend who was a radio guy from Canada. And my friend was like, yo, meet Tony. He's this artist from Houston. He's up and coming. The radio guy from Canada was like, yo, well, I'm here with this artist, Cadence Weapon. He is like on the rise back home as an underground rapper. He took me to his show. I loved his show. I got his latest album at the time, which was called After Party Babies. And I just loved it. And I was like, you know what? Let me try to link with this guy. And about 4 or 5 years later, we just linked up again and we went on tour. We went on tour in 2012. Then we stayed friends, went on tour again in 2018. And now we're back on the road again. It's kind of crazy. Like, he is the person that I've toured with the most. And I think it's really nice to have that like tour crew that you're used to. You know what I mean? Because we like get each other and we make music with each other. We both really respect each other as artists. It's kind of like the perfect storm. And I've always tried to really build with people like that. Like, you know, as a rapper, you meet so many artists, so many producers. so many chances to like collaborate with people. And I think in my experience, a lot of those times have been good. About half of those times have been mid, but an even smaller amount have been people like him who I meet. And I'm like, damn, I really feel where you're coming from as a person. We need to stay in each other's lives as artists, because this is bigger than just like you're a cool guy at the moment that I need to link with for the look.
Right. That's cool as shit, man. So you guys are heading out for a while, and you'll be in Houston at the White Oak. Is that the White Oak Amphitheater?
Yeah,
upstairs.
White Oak Music Hall.
White Oak Music Hall. On October 13th. On October 14th, you'll be at Paper Tiger in San Antonio. On October 15th, you'll be at Far Out Lounge here in Austin. And on October 16th, you'll be at Wild Acre Live in Fort Worth.
Yeah, we actually just changed that. We just changed it from Fort Worth to Dallas. We're going to be at Club Dada in Dallas now. That's cool. Which I'm even more excited about because I love Club Dada. I love Dada, period, the art movement.
Yeah. Me too. I love Club Dada. I've been playing there since 1989.
Man, I want to hear more about your opinion about this stuff, because I think that you probably played many of the years that I would have loved to be a performer. What do you feel like are the major changes as a performing artist, let's just say between now, the 2000s, and the 90s?
In the 90s, it seems like, and maybe it was my age too, I was in my 20s, so I might have, the people that were following me were that age too, and at that age, you can devote a lot of time to someone you don't know that you love. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And my band, I started out playing in Houston. Well, I mean, I started out here, but I lived in Houston. I had my first like real band of my own there. And
oh wow.
Yeah, and I played places like the Axiom that I think you would have really liked that place. I don't know. I've
heard of it. That was before my time, but I heard about it so much, you know. It's legendary for Houston people.
Yeah, it was a great place that always had great, and they did a lot of like, there were punk and hip hop shows together there and stuff, a lot more than some of the other places. But what I've noticed is that, and the audience isn't there to experience something with you now because of the element of social media and the fact that you can do things on your phone. There's some nights where it gets me so much, I just want to scream at the audience, like, just be here, just experience this. Don't. The whole show thing has become that. Like it's become festivals are about this VIP experience. You know what I mean? That you can have, and like it's all about it's not about going and being with a group of people and everybody loves this group or this style of music or this lineup at this thing. It's more about, I want to make sure people knew I was here and I'm here at the thing, you know what I mean? The phone thing has kind of detached them in a way, I feel like.
I kind of feel like, I started out going to a lot of shows by myself. And I think I'd be more bored doing that now than when I was in like 2005, because now I'd have my phone and I'd probably be zoning out more, and I'd probably be trying to invite folks more. Like when I went out pre having a smartphone, going to a random concert, I was like, man, I hope I meet someone cool, because that was the one place where I could meet. Like I started making punk friends from going to shows, right, and then seeing the other kid who wasn't there with their friends. I don't know. Maybe there are less kids going out solo doing shit now than when because I remember like I made this really good friend at a show because she was outside smoking, and smoking was an invitation to meet someone, bum a cigarette or whatever. And then I remember she gave me her email address because she lived in like a suburb, like kind of outside of Houston. and we would just start writing each other. And then when like she made plans to come into town for shows, we would meet up. And it was just the kind of pure relationship where I was like, man, I don't know much about her besides these shows. Every time we talk, we get to learn a little more about each other.
Yeah.
And we're also sharing music too. She like putting me on to bands I never listened to and vice versa. And I feel like that type of community, I don't know how people get it now. I'm sure that people do, just in like a different way. But at least from my generation, I feel like so many of my people are kind of jaded on that, because I still kind of want to live in that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I am still into nerding out about music and going to shows for the pure enjoyment of seeing the music and meeting people and not taking pictures that I'm there or posting that I'm there or any of that. That's still fun for me. Whether I'm making music on a professional level or not, that's just my lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing is like there's like we were fans when you were talking about being able to get all of the Misfits music. Like that was the one thing, like when I got Spotify, I knew that it was hated by people that do what I do. But dude, I spent like 3 weeks, just every fucking thing that I could think of, I listened to, you know?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Now that like, I always think if I had Spotify as a kid, cause I had to download and like wait, if I could instantly listen to every album ever, I would have never gone to school.
Yeah.
I just would have stayed home or like sneaking out, just listening to music all the time. Cause I'd be like, wow, I can listen to whatever the fuck I want. It's just like a dream.
Right. Yeah. I talk to friends of mine all the time about pilgrimages that you had to go on as a kid. Like, do you know Frenchie Smith, the producer guy here in town? He has the studio, The Bubble. He and I always talk. He lived in this little town. I can't even remember what it was, but it was some town in Oklahoma where he had to have some friend take him to Dallas so that he could get records, that were cool. And like, I remember being like in junior high when Duran Duran came out, and I started my first band, and you couldn't get clothes like that in the Woodlands, right? You know what I mean? Like you had to have your mom take you to a place that,
that's real.
Yeah. And there was just a lot of pilgrimages for things. And now you don't have to do anything like that. Like you can get the exact shirt you see, Drake wearing on a thing on your phone immediately.
Yeah, man. I also think just like, culture is so different now. Like I think those subcultures that were so dialed in, that like kind of had like rules around them of you need to know about this band or this slang or whatever. A lot of that's kind of gone too. And I think it's good and bad. I think it's good because it opens things up, because one thing that was whack about the older world, and I'm not just trying to like brag like the older world is like perfect, but I do think that on the financial ecosystem way, that's a better business model to keep music thriving.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, back then it was way more cliquish. Like if you were into hardcore, you were with these people. If you were gay, you were with these people.
Right.
If you were into gangster rap, you were with these people. If you in the backpack rap, you were with these people. If you only like Texas rap, you were with these people. If you only like Louisiana rap, you were with these. Like everybody was very like sectioned off. And I do like how nowadays it's no big deal for any kid to be into anything. Because I felt more like that growing up, that I was always openly into any kind of music, which used to be a big thing. Like so many of my interviews even would love to talk about how isn't it interesting that this like black guy, he likes punk and he's a rapper, but he also likes country music and his dad's African. And in my mind, it's like, bitch, it's all the same to me.
Yeah.
Like totally. It never once, like I honored all the entry points, like everything. Like I'm down to like understand the lingo and like the dress and like the bands you need to know for every subculture that I was into. Right. But I also didn't feel like they competed with each other. And I was the one person who would hop from my friends who like this to my friends who like this to my friends who like this, to my friends who are like this. And it meant it was just normal to me.
Yeah.
But now that is the norm.
Yeah, that is. definitely. I noticed that when that cover band I play in plays at like a high school function, they have exposure to all these songs, and their parents, you know, obviously listen. Like kids know the words to Crazy Train, and they know the words to Dancing Queen by ABBA. Which, like when I was growing up, if you knew Crazy Train, then you know, yelled at people that liked ABBA. You know. Yeah.
But to them, they're just great old songs.
Yeah, they're just great songs. Yeah. That's the funny thing is they're just old songs to them.
They're just some old songs, just some old people music that they heard.
Kind of the way I look at like Benny Goodman and like you know, Tony Bennett or something. To me, it's all kind of the same music, but like
totally.
Tell my grandparents, they're like, oh no, there's a distinct difference. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That is one thing that never changes. As time goes on, more shit just kind of gets lumped with each other.
Yeah. It becomes history. It's this big blob of history.
And I love it, man, because I was examining it as I got into music when I was young, and I'm still trying to do it now. I am still very into new music coming out. I want to learn all about it. Like, I think it's just fascinating because it never ends and it just builds upon each other. And I always want to contribute to music in some way as an artist and as a fan and just whatever, like contribute to music spreading and just growing and just, you know, showing love for it, because I think so many people do treat music now like it's a background thing, and that sucks.
Yeah. Like
it's a utility. It's like a song for their post and nothing more than that.
Right. Yeah. Well, man, the level of music that you're putting out, it's you really, I can't say it enough. You really are amazing. I'm really glad that I went that night to Far Out Lounge, and I'm really glad Emily Miller hooked us up. She's a fantastic person.
Emily's great
friend.
You know what? I will tell you this, man. I want to say thank you, because I feel like you're the kind of person that's probably more aligned with my musical values than I think a lot of people I get to interact with. You know, I think because I'm a millennial 30-something rapper that's from Houston, I'm kind of looked at a certain way. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of my gift is in songwriting and these concepts and these ideas I'm trying to put forth, which I see typically gets like respected more by music people, you know, people who are in it for like the song themselves. People that understand a great song can just be a voice and an acoustic guitar, and not only the like aesthetic tricks around it, right, which I think really inform a lot of current popular music.
Right.
You know, and I am definitely trying to reach more people that can respect me for my songwriting, for my concepts, for the ideas I'm trying to put forth, not just because it's cool or the energy of it,
right,
or it's funny or whatever. You know, I am trying to reach more people that can see the value in the interesting ideas I'm trying to bring, not just the bells and whistles like a lot of other contemporary music.
Yeah. Well, it spoke to me, and listening to your music, I kept on starting things over, and like yesterday when you were like, oh, I dropped a single today, by that time I had listened to it like 15 times. So
this is crazy.
So yeah, man.
Thank you.
Listen, people that aren't in Austin and you're in America, FatTonyRap.net, you have all the dates on there. And
yes, FatTonyRap.net, you can get tickets straight from me.
Yeah. The record, the latest record album is Exotica, and the latest single is Ain't For Me. All available now wherever it is you stream and download your jams. I also really liked that record you made with Tadex called Wake Up.
Yes.
Oh, you made vinyl. Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah, we got beautiful.
Ooh, wow. Multicolored vinyl.
Very, very beautiful. We're almost out of this one. We only printed up like 1,500 of this one, and we're down to like 40. So this tour might be the last time to really get them. Let's make it happen.
Well, man, I wish you all the luck. I look forward to meeting you sometime in person. And
let's hang out in Austin.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So have fun in Tucson. Tell Hotel Congress I said hi. And yeah,
I for sure will.
Can people
will greet every ghost in there for you.
Thank you. People can go to you have a Bandcamp, right? And that's where your merch is?
Yes.
Yeah. So they can go there.
FatTonyRap.bandcamp.com. You can get merch, vinyl, everything is there.
Okay.
Flax, wave files, all that shit.
The whole thing. Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this show, and good luck on the tour. And
thank you, man.
And I'll be seeing you soon.
Hell yeah. Have a good day.
You too, my man.
Peace.
Bye.
As soon as I can, I ain't coming back again. God damn, man, this shit ain't changed one bit. One after the other, man, the country's so sick. Oh, God, bro.
That's Fat Tony. He is on tour now with Cadence Weapon. Go to FatTonyRap.net. If you live in San Antonio, October 14th, he'll be there at Paper Tiger. October 13th, he'll be in Houston at White Oak. October 15th, he'll be at Far Out Lounge here in Austin, Texas. October 16th, he'll be at Club Dada in Dallas, and they're going to be touring more, so go to FatTony.net, FatTonyRap.net for all of your Fat Tony needs. Check out this record, Exotica. Check out this single, Ain't For Me. This guy's amazing. This guy is amazing. What a great conversation. I want to throw another thanks out to my friend Emily Miller for setting this up. That was really nice of you, Emily. You're awesome. And listen, gang, when you're out there checking out this, maybe you're new to the show, you can subscribe to this show wherever it is you stream and download podcasts. I've been doing it for 10 years. There's almost 1,100 episodes out. If you get the Podbean app, you can find all the episodes you can. We're on Spotify, on Stitcher, Overcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you find podcasts, new shows. 3 shows next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Great conversations. Sue Foley, Nat Adderley, Elkie, lots of people. All right? Let's hear the rest of this song by Fat Tony. Get out there and check him out at FatTonyRap.net. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing. Let's get down.
I ain't gotta look that far to see that this motherfucker really ain't meant for me. This bitch really ain't built for me. That we built this motherfucker, did it all for free. I'ma need a fee, I'ma need a flee, I'ma need to leave immediately. As soon as I can, I'ma make another plan. As soon as I can, I ain't coming back again. Got the flights ready, gone, and I'm on. I'm ready, time to meet my new home. And I got my wife with me, and I got my son with me. Whole fucking life with me. Yeah, my cousin think I'm wrong, but my daddy riding with me. Mama too, she was just what she could do back in the day. For about a year, we went through the growing pains. Year 2, now we moving in our own groove, and we blessed. Still got money coming from the U.S., can't lie. Our privilege got me more than get by. Here we still got conflict, gotta fight. But here ain't got a history of beating niggas down. The straight disrespect just wear a nigga out. I ain't tryna see America for a minute. I ain't tryna see it unless it is for a visit. If you feel the same, I suggest you pivot. If you feel the same, let me help you to the finish. I ain't gotta look that far to see that this motherfucker really ain't meant for me. This bitch really ain't built for me. That we built this motherfucker, did it all for free. I'ma need a fee, I'ma need to flee, I'ma need to leave immediately. As soon as I can, I'ma make another plan. As soon as I can, I ain't coming back again.